move to item 9, the main debate under Rule 16.3. I'll call on the leader to introduce the debate on the work undertaken in the by the Council in the previous year, together with highlights, pressures and potential issues for the coming year. Before I do that, can I just remind members that at 9:30 I will be seeking your guidance on whether to continue the meeting or cut it off, and that the main debate under the Rule 16.3 is time limited. So I will want to get as many people in as possible, but the total time for the debate is 40 minutes maximum. Both leaders get up to 10 minutes to introduce that. That could be half of the time gone straight away if they both use that. There will be a number of hands that will go up. I will ask you, although you have 5 minutes, to consider your other councillors and consider how much time you actually need to speak for. I'll call on the leader of the council to start the debate, please.
Thank you, Chair, and it's an honour to introduce the debate this evening. And rather than in the spirit of just what you've just said, rather than offering, I'm going to focus on the action that we are taking as a council, particularly at the moment and in the year ahead. Just a few brief remarks about the previous year. Firstly, I'd like to pay tribute to the former leading council, Councillor Russell Perrin, who led the council throughout the year. I'd also like to note the appointment of our fantastic Chief Executive, Andrew Bramage, which happened in the past year, and I have the pleasure of working with him every day to deliver the things that I'm going to set out this evening. Finally, Chair, I'd like to also recognise each and every officer of this council who worked so hard to deliver all of the ambitions that I'm sure many of us will set out this evening. I had the pleasure with the Chief Executive of holding staff briefings over the past few weeks and meeting so many more officers throughout the council who do an incredible job. As I hope everyone in the chamber is aware, indeed everyone in the town is aware, this administration set out 5 priorities for the year ahead, because our job, our existence, is to serve the residents of the town. And that means delivering on their priorities to fix council housing, to restore pride in the town, to rebuild our town, secure investment in Harlow, and to improve council services. But what does that mean, Chair? What are the substantive actions that we are taking to deliver on those promises? The first priority, as I set out, is to fix council housing. The council owns the best part of 9,500 properties in the town, and we have an unacceptable backlog of repairs in those homes. So the first thing that we will do this year is to clear that backlog of housing repairs. I hope members saw the recent announcement that for the first time in 18 months, in the month of June, that backlog fell, the void turnaround time sped up, and the investment into that work stream significantly increased by 4.1 million. The second thing we will do this year to fix council housing is to reorder the schedule of works. And what does that mean? That means the time period in which we give residents or tenants when they contact us about an issue in their home. I believe that those time periods are unacceptable, both by our standards as a landlord, but also by the standards of industry best practice. I don't believe it's acceptable that we should be giving people a 9-month time frame in which to carry out a repair in their home. And therefore we will be drastically reordering that schedule of works in line with industry best standards. And that will go for all service standards that we provide, including void turnaround times. The third thing we will do this year, Chair, is to introduce an annual inspection of council homes. As the landlord, as I said, for 9,500 properties, I believe it's right that we first and foremost interact with our tenants at least once a year. But second, we check on the condition of our properties at least once a year. And third, that we gather a significant amount of data on who is living in those properties and the condition of them, so that we can plan accordingly for it. The fourth thing we will do to fix council housing this year is to significantly amend our housing allocations process and policy. And what that means is that Harlow Council has had a historic housing allocations policy that currently has around 5,500 applicants on our housing needs register, which is far too high. We've just kicked off the review of that policy, which will consider the local connection type, which will consider the earnings cap, which will consider the banding arrangements, which will consider absolutely everything in terms of the process we carry out, to ensure that, first and foremost, Harlow's council homes genuinely are for Harlow's families, and second, to deal with the very acute problems that we've had with the London councils placing and temporary accommodations, meeting a 5-year time frame, and then becoming the responsibility of Harlow Council. So we will be carrying out a significant review and bringing forward early in the new year a new housing allocations policy. The other part of that is the process in which at the moment, when resident or potential tenants apply for council property, it's about 16-week wait time to hear a result of their application. They may find out on week 16 they didn't meet the original criteria. We will be significantly changing that process to ensure that at the moment someone applies for a council property, they both are determined as to whether they've met the criteria or not, but they are also put into a ban. And the fifth thing we will do this year, Chair, to fix council housing, and it's already being commissioned now, is to carry out a stock condition survey, both internal and external, on all of our properties. So why do those 5 things matter? They matter because we are landlords over 9,500 properties, and I don't believe we've done a good enough job in recent years of that. The second thing, the second priority this year is to restore pride in Harlow. And again, there are 5 tangible things we will do this year to genuinely restore pride in Harlow. And before I detail those, I would like to commend personally the work of the Cabinet Member for Environment and Sustainability, who does a tremendous job every day to look at these things. So the first thing we will do is to put in place a new service standard for HDS in the landscape maintenance across the town. We've had significant improvements as a result of the pilot work that's been done. That will now be rolled out town-wide, so residents see a genuine improvement in the landscape maintenance we provide. The second thing we will do is to bring forward, as was discussed last week, the new tree policy and proactive maintenance of both trees, allotments, parks, and so on. The third thing we will do is address, and as we are now seeing the fruits of, the historic challenge of Essex County Council's maintenance of both street furniture and the highways themselves. The fourth thing we will do is carry out a wide-scale garage demolition programme to create car parking in the neighbourhoods. And the fifth thing we will do this year, Chair, to restore pride in our town is to implement major upgrades to our roundabouts and to radically transform our estates with a serious estate replanting programme. The third priority this year, Chair, as I've set out, is to rebuild our town. So what are the 5 tangible things we will do to deliver that? Well, first, the construction of the town centre, I'm sure it will be welcomed across the chamber, will be underway this year with all of our pre-approved schemes underway on-site delivery, as well as demolitions of key town centre buildings. The second thing we will do is that by the end of this year, all Phase 1 council house building schemes will be on site, being delivered and on track for completion. The third thing we will do is to ensure the Harlow Regeneration Partnership, the historic partnership we signed, is in operation with the business plan approved, and that the partnership schemes, again, are on site and delivering. The fourth, and I know Councillor Durkin will particularly welcome this, is to first recognise the significant investment that is now coming into our cycle track network, the significant investment that's already been made, but also to agree a long-term position with Essex County Council and to implement the LC WIP plan that set out that rebuilding. And the fifth, Chair, is to complete the jigsaw of acquisitions in the town centre to deliver our regeneration programme. The fourth investment, Chair, is to secure investment into Harlow, and that means a number of things. First is that our place branding narrative will be in place and genuinely securing investment. The work of the economic development strategy will be coming into fruition with a Harlow-based SME action plan produced and producing tangible actions and support for local businesses. The fourth, and again we are already delivering on this, is to secure investment into the innovation part with new tenants, construction work underway, cafe complete, and significant upgrades to the site. The fourth is to secure Section 106 and other infrastructure fundings on the Gilston Garden Town project. And the fifth is, again, which we are delivering, to secure the new hospital, which has already been done, secure the UK HSA, which I had a fantastic conversation with them today about £400 million they've already invested into the site, a great government that are now getting going again there to complete that. And the fifth priority, Chair, as I said, is to improve council services. So that means, yes, freezing council tax this year, but also significantly improving the delivery of our services so that residents feel a tangible difference. It's to look at the election cycle, but also bring in the polling stations as being consulted on at the moment, dare I say. The third thing is to improve the service standards, inquiry response and action times. And what that means is that when a resident contacts the council, we are genuinely improving the time it takes to action their query. The fourth thing we will do to improve council services is to significantly improve the culture and leisure offerings through new events in the town and to make the most of our discretionary service assets. And the fifth is to transform our performance monitoring and management. Those 25 things I have just set out, Chair, may not be particularly riveting speech to listen to, but what they demonstrate is that we are genuinely delivering on the priorities of Harlow residents, that we are taking tangible, meaningful action to make this town a better place to live, to work, to grow up, to grow old, to start business and to raise a family. And I think, Chair, as I opened with my remarks, the existence of this council is to deliver for residents. And as I've set out this evening, we are delivering for residents. Thank you.
Very much, with 2 seconds left on the clock. Councillor Vince.
Thank you, Chair. I can't quite promise that another pre-prepared speech for me, but I do want to start by congratulating yourself on a historic re-election as Chair. We may not agree on everything, but the two things we do agree on is the importance to promote a positive image of our town and your very good knowledge of town minutes. And actually, in all seriousness, I do want to congratulate Councillor Swords on his election of leader of this group. It was you, Chair, that said to me that no matter what political party you represent, it is a huge honour to be seconded by your peers. And I look forward to working with him where possible and scrutinising where necessary for the good of our town. And I do want to thank the Labour Group and members of the Labour Party who unanimously re-elected me as leader of the group. I've been involved in politics for a long time now, but I still feel humbled by the faith that members of my group place in me. This is the bit where I usually welcome new councillors to the chamber. I welcome back Councillor Steer, Councillor Steer, and I welcome Al Maggie back to the chamber. And I also want to welcome a new councillor, Councillor O'Dell. Aidan, I've been lucky enough to know for a number of years now, and he brings to him into the chamber a great deal of experience from his background in business and IT, being the son of a pretty formidable former councillor herself, and with a passion and love for his town, which I know will hold me in good stead and be good for the people of Markham. I say, as always, the most important job that we do as councillors is in the work we do in our ward and with our communities, week in, week out. And I'm proud to lead a group of Labour councillors who never stop working hard for their residents. Only last week I was out in Bushfair with Councillor Dunn, who works hard all year round for residents in Bushfair, and that came across so much on the 4th of May. I will of course touch upon the 5 priorities that Councillor Swords has identified. And as I've said to him privately, and I'll say it to him publicly, I don't disagree with him. And I suspect as the year goes on, it's likely to be an implementation thing that we'll have discussion over. I was amused, though, I have to say, a little bit political, to see the timing of announcement became an opportune time to move the subject away from the national leadership of your party. Sadly, sadly, I think the real obstacle that the new leader will find in achieving his priorities is funding. And I know that I say this time and time again, but I make no apologies for saying this council has been starved by funding by a Conservative government. Over £60 million worth of cuts over the past 13 years. And acknowledging this fact isn't talking the town down, it's recognising a very real and present challenge to this council. And it's hard-working finance officers. And I would like to join Councillor in paying tribute to the hard work that council officers have done across the previous year. And to say otherwise is not only disrespectful to them, but also disrespectful to residents of our town and our community, who do recognise the effect on service the council can provide and its responsiveness. Last year there was an overspend, or whatever you want to call it, of £1.2 million that came out of reserve. This year another £0.6 million from reserve and £0.6 million from the general fund. That's £2.4 million additional in-year expense not projected at the start of the year, which has come directly from reserve and from the dissipating general fund. The party opposite chair may choose to put their head in the sand and say there's been no cuts to services, but the empty space downstairs where the cash office once was, says otherwise. Cuts to staffing levels, cuts to apprenticeships, the delays in maintenance and landscaping work, the lack of a Harlow spring clean this year, all just a few chapters in the true story. I hope, however, that even if publicly they want to turn a blind eye to the government's attack, the national government's attack on local government, that at least privately they will heed our warning. I welcome the opportunity, Chair, to scrutinise the Council's finances this year. I will do so in a constructive manner, but I also will raise concerns when I have them. He's not here today, but I do want to thank your finance lead for his commitment to work with me to raising the issue of the short-term nature of local council financing. Sadly, for too long, and it didn't just start 13 years ago, although I do think it's got worse in the last 13 years, local government hasn't been taken seriously enough. And if I can do anything as leader of the council's opposition, I want to challenge that. To show residents out of our town that local government matters, and work with you all to show that national government, that local government matters. And I hope the motion that Councillor Griggs and I brought to today's meeting, the introduction of DFIBs across the town, can really save people's lives. And what could possibly matter more than that? I want to work with the leaders to improve the service that residents receive. As he knows, this is something of a bugbear of mine, as it is for any councillor who regularly talks to residents in their ward. However, I think there is one omission for his priorities, and I forgive him for this because I partially admitted it too. And that's the issue of mental health and the well-being of our town. I'm genuinely really worried about the mental health and well-being of residents in our town, and I can't emphasise that enough. Yes, the pandemic is a big part of that. The cost of living crisis is a part of it too. And in my day job, I work for a charity to support young carers, and seeing how this vulnerable and frankly unrepresented section of our society has been affected, not only with their own mental health, but the mental health of those people that they care for. This is the bit where I say, Michael, you stop recording, because I want to thank Councillor Charles. So, just stop recording. Sorry, he's not listening. No, genuinely, Councillor Charles, I want to thank you for your update of the health and wellbeing plan for our town in the wake of what's been a really difficult couple of years for everybody, including people in this chamber. And she was mentioned earlier, but I know that former Councillor Eugenie Harvey, who took an active role when the document was previously published, would agree with its structure. However, a policy and a plan is just that. And over the next year, I look forward to working with councillors opposite to ensure their plans become reality, that we help those people who are most in need across our town. And I can hear in my head the late, great Councillor Francis Mason saying, this strategy must reach everyone in this town, whatever their gender, whatever their ethnicity, and whatever their sexuality. I don't need to look he's done it. This council needs to be inclusive, welcoming organisations, and must avoid some of the divisive language that some of our MPs nationally have used. The politics of division must give way to the politics of hope, now more than ever. Which brings me on to the subject of hope not hate, and the pledge that Councillor Swords, your predecessor, and I signed up following Councillor Kay Morrison's motion. I ask you sign up to it as well, but also ensure that your party signs up to it too. I see some pretty dreadful things on social media, directed towards council on both sides of the chamber, sometimes from residents, but sometimes, sadly, from other councillors. The unanimous support for the motion was a symbol that we can work in common endeavour. A fact witnessed by the creation of 2 member champions for domestic abuse and for community wellbeing. There is a place for disagreement. In fact, it's imperative. But there is no place for hatred, there is no place for ridicule, and there is no place for personal attacks. And there is no excuse to bully or harass others. None of us know what's going on in each other's personal lives. And I make this pledge to you, Councillor Swords, publicly as I made privately. I will be critical about your political decisions. I'll support them if I agree with them, the Harvey Centre, but I will not allow myself to get involved in personal attacks and mudslinging. We know that sort of behaviour is beneath this chamber and beneath this organisation. And it's surely beyond dispute that our residents deserve much better. Chair, to finish, we want a council which will help our residents through the cost of living crisis. which will take seriously the issues of climate change, which will ensure everybody has a secure home and lives in a safe community, and a council which ensures everyone in our society has a voice, not just now, but in future generations as well. These are our priorities. Thank you, Chair.
Now, we throw the debate open to the rest of the chamber, but before we do that, any speech of 5 minutes will cross the 9:30 to 2 hour threshold in no one about standing orders. Can I see the Leader and the Leader of the Opposition support to extend this meeting until the conclusion of all of the business on the agenda?
That's great.
Can that be agreed by the chamber, please?
Agreed.
Okay, I've got 2 indications so far. Councillor David Carter and Councillor Joel Charles. I'll be looking for others around the room. Councillor David Carter.
Thank you, Chair. The first thing I'd like to say about working together and not criticising other councillors is that during the last year I've worked very well with two councillors, Councillor Griggs at the back there. We're working together today and we've been working together in the past, and also a councillor who's not here tonight. I've been working with that particular lady, because like me, she's a people person. She's not too interested in big buildings, etc. She's interested in people, and that's Danny Oakridge. As the new housing portfolio holder, what job is my God? I never thought there was as much work to be done when I took this job. But the one thing is, probably the majority of the council employees in both sides come across housing, so a lot of them are to do with housing. So I get a lot of support from officers throughout the town and also members of HGS. My main priorities, which are our priorities, are fixing council houses and getting the voids back in use. I've had 3 meetings with other councils to see how they tackle the backlog of repairs and voids. All very different from us, and I will be using the information to improve our working on these areas. We have a new interim CEO at HGS, Alan Townsend, and a new interim finance director, Michael Shields. These, together with our new interim housing director, Neil Houston, are starting to work together and make Harlow District Council and HGS a unit of 700 people working for Harlow residents, not 400 HDC and 300 HGS never really working together. We are promoting a working together situation via Alan Townsend and Neil Houston to make sure that we're getting it right for the residents in this town. Neil and Alan meet every Monday, and Neil and myself now meet every Tuesday. And I get an update on what Alan and Neil are working on. We're using outside contractors and bringing in extra subcontractors for voids, roofing and fencing. The aim is for us to get to the target this work and for HGS to work on the day-to-day work. So the backlog will be done mainly by contractors. HGS will work on the day-to-day work, and in this way we'll get the work in progress to be reduced to manageable levels. Once we've got the work in progress down to manageable levels, HGS should be well able to control this. The aim is to ensure that the trend is in the right direction to meet our key priorities. Neil and Alan will monitor the spend on the subcontractors over the next 2 months, and then have a projection for the second half of the year to highlight the performance and cost. The decision going forward will be based on that detailed information. And as far as I'm concerned, as portfolio for housing, I've got 9,200 odd properties and about 5,000 need some sort of repair. And that is basically my main priority for this year. Thank you.
Councillor Carter. Councillor Charles.
Well, thank Thank you, Chair. The last municipal year saw this council plot a confident course to position the town to grasp the exciting opportunities that lie ahead. Building on community resilience, enhancing prosperity, and looking after the most vulnerable in our community must remain a core focus of this council to further strengthen the town's position in the east of England. In a departure from the norm, I want to start by recognising the work of opposition members on the Scrutiny Committee, who held me to account, took part in quality policy discussions, and enhanced the strategic work I worked through to conclusion. I would point out that Councillor Kay Morrison rightly asked me challenging questions that led to better policy outcomes through mature debate. Local government works best when it is not on an adversarial footing. Two key pieces of work were developed during the municipal year: the community safety and economic development strategies are about strengthening the town's resilience at their core, confronting antisocial behaviour and crime for a renewed zero-tolerance approach, and a plan to attract inward investment and support our existing sector bases. I want to thank Jane Greer, Julie Houston and Christine Howard for their outstanding work, pulling together the ideas that shape them. Strategy matters. This council is a major administrative entity. It needs direction through leadership that is agile, that meets the challenges of today, that plans for what might be around the corner tomorrow. Supporting our community during tough times is a role this council has always taken seriously. It is important to remember that during the winter there was a great deal of worry for families and those impacted by the cost of living pressures. The council took a clear leadership role with Essex County Council, the local charitable sector and faith-based groups by offering a warm space to those who had nowhere else to go. When compassion is the driving force behind the need to act, this town benefits the most. Now, of course, as a backbencher, I'm at liberty to devote my full energy towards ward matters. During the municipal year and in the past too, I've been regularly dealing with the frustrations of residents who live on the Gilden Park development. Now, I welcome the action that is being taken by the council to hold the consortium of developers to account. The residents have been frustrated for far too long. My particular thanks goes to Pauline Elliott for the impact she has already made as an officer leading planning enforcement in an interim capacity, and for her work engaging with the consortium. Now, it is disappointing that developers have not come to the table. The key now is to get on with a more rapid timeline to deliver the community infrastructure promised alongside better general upkeep of the development. If this council is going to move forward this year, it must be willing to take on board constructive challenge. In the LGA peer review report it states, quote, "The organisation is tired, but things are exacerbated in Harlow by the negative energy being absorbed by the relationship and cultural issues within the organisation." That message must be taken seriously. People should come to work for the council feeling motivated and positive about the opportunity to do so. Feeling disenfranchised in the civic centre does this town a disservice. Officers should never feel they need to keep their heads down or be unable to do their job. I have confronted and challenged such behaviours, but we all have a collective responsibility to ensure this does not continue and the space is created to move forward. This authority stands tall when those entrusted with the stewardship of the town pull in the same direction. To steer through the coming years ahead, there must be a purposeful narrative to change things for the better. Clear strategic intent and tactical precision to manage unexpected events. I am confident this authority will continue to deliver best value for taxpayers, but there must be a relentless focus on ensuring the council's culture is positive to deliver for the needs of all.
Thank you, Councillor Charles. Councillor Durham.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and I feel obliged that I feel the weight of Danny Purton, a former councillor here, but also an excellent and long-standing councillor, Mike Danvers, burning into me to actually say 2 years, half empty, half full, dregs of ambition. Someone said to me not that long ago that Harlow is demolition town, because all we have got at the moment is we're very good at knocking things down, but we're not very good at building things back up. And you only need to look at the town centre to do that. So this is a review and ambition for the next 12 months. But we're starting at such a low point of what have you done in the last 12 months, and to be frank, nothing. What have you achieved in the last 12 months? Quite frankly, nothing. We had the disastrous housing situation where we were forcing people to pay for roofs, then we had to abandon the project. We've had resignations, we've had sackings, we have councillors that have not turned up, and we have had too many leaders of this council. Over the last 12 months, and why should we have confidence in the next 12 months, we have a series of broken commitments. No enhancement in the world-famous cycle track, no new housing, no new building for investment, no actual investment except for buying the Harvey Centre. Houses for private is going up, housing for public and council is going down. The environment is being damaged with trees being removed that don't need to be true, and building barricades in front of forests to stop vulnerable people having the joy of woods. It's a scandal, and you should be ashamed of it. We've had broken paths, broken roads, and as Councillor Charles says, broken promises from the developers. And it does feel that you are being led by the developers rather than the other way round. I will congratulate that I did notice one piece of good news, which is the planters have been restored in the Market Square, which do look very nice indeed. But I will remind those people who have been around the same time as me the issue about Perrin's pots. So building a planter is one thing, maintaining them and securing them is a different matter altogether. Let's be honest, and Councillor Charles started his statement about all the things that we are pressurised on, and that is because we've got a failing government. We've got a failing MP who's broken so many promises, it's unbelievable. We have a failing county council who will not do potholes when they should, but only when they are forced to do because they are worried that elections are looming. And we've got a failing council. Now, what is the common link between all those things? All of them are you, and you are failing this town. Thank you.
I actually take a very different view on maintenance. I think it's hard to swallow that pill when the service level agreement across was carried over and not reviewed for at least 20 years. I take umbrage to that I have then taken that on, ripped that service level agreement to pieces and got some work done. And we will deliver in September a town-wide new working practices. I do take, in terms of protecting our triple SI sites and talking about climate change, is very, as Councillor Vince put in, it is very serious. And I'm very passionate about climate change, and we will deliver a policy on climate change. When we, on the 7th of July, actually said that we had in 2019, said we had a climate change emergency, I really take umbrage to actually being told that we are doing nothing.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sue.
Thank you,
Chair. Just echoing your message earlier, quote, working together for unity and love, and also the Leader of the Opposition's statement quotes the political view of hope. Is that, I might be incorrect, but something about the political opinion of hope. And with that said, it's with great delight that I'm part of an administration, and as well as one who has really a heart for the community realistically and sincerely, that the 5 priorities set out by this council of the Tory administration will improve and deliver better services for Harlow residents. I did have a written speech quite long, so do bear with me if I go in and out. So in regards to fixing council houses, again, it's something which I do believe that is necessary to give our residents honour and pride in their environment and how they live, and in restoring pride in Harlow. When I meet with various residents who share their beginning journey into Harlow, their then and now, and those who are new to Harlow, who left such areas as London, the contrast is one we can all be proud of collectively together, cross-party and us, and remain strategic and steadfast to improve Harlow, as well as recognising that Harlow is by far safer than many other towns, and its history of community at heart still exists, especially within Harlow Common, which I would definitely biased by because it is something that's dear to me as well. It is also evident that the community safety team actively and consistently have engaged well in tackling antisocial behaviour. In recent weeks, the handling of unauthorised travellers campaign within the town deserve accolades to that team, and them working really closely with the police in various communities to serve and protect the residents of Harlow. So it's a great delight that I can say we're expectant and excited that the coming months ahead brings great opportunities and motivation and restoration of the community of Harlow with various planned events such as Knife Crime. So I thank Mr. Shepherd for his interest, and I'll be really delighted to work closely with you in how we can build those community resilience. That's something which is quite passionate to me, as well as being a mother of children. And then also, moreover, it's also recognised that Harlow has a lot to offer and it's given credit for. So the 5 priorities set out again with Harlow being put on the map and being remembered for its former glory, and perhaps even envied to be a place to live by those surrounding communities. In the past, you had people that came from London and thought Harlow was a dream, so that dream can be reunited. And then moving on to rebuilding our town, just bear with me because I'm going to have to find where I've got this made quite short, so I'm going to do my 5 minutes short. So if I pause in between, it's because I'm just shortening my speech. It is also important to ensure community engagement is maintained whilst protecting and serving those in Harlow. This can be seen with the increased police officers in recent years, crime reduction, although there are still some challenging and room for improvement, but I'm more so confident that this will continue to decrease and will continue to improve on provision of this to implement effective community engagement. I'm also quite pleased that in rebuilding our town, my colleagues such as Councillor Vicky Purse works extremely hard in delivering excellent services to our local communities, where most times I send her reports of residents wanting trees removed, which it's a very reoccurring of people wanting trees removed. So if trees are being taken down as well, it's things which sometimes they are necessary to be taken down. It's not that we're uprooting trees, as Councillor Phillips did state. I hope also that the small steps already taken within the community team can be recognised. If not, then I'll point these out, with things such as pre-planned and timely opening of our splash parks, what's on within Harlow, because Harlow has a lot going on for it, but it's again something which the communities are not brought in together to recognise. The independent report which sets out the voice of Harlow communities are considered and improving relationship with communities and building from these recommendations. This administration, especially in my portfolio, set out to listen to our residents to ensure that they are listened to and what they feel is what they need to be implemented as services is now largely aimed to, irrespectively of our political colours or any party streams, and making Harlow a better place to live. We must now come together as one to encourage the priorities, 5 priorities set out with this administration for the enabling and rebuilding of a stronger, resilient community and a council which serves its community wholeheartedly, efficiently, effectively, and all our watches.
Thank you. Councillor Shields.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't actually going to speak tonight, but I just wanted to make a very quick comment, and it's with regard to something that Councillor Charles said about officers and, being afraid to put their head above the parapet, and I'm appalled. I have to say that our greatest resource are the people that work for us, and we need to ensure that they are in a safe, open, honest environment to do that job. That is how we have a town that we can provide, how we can provide for our town and ensure that the services that we give are the services that we want to give. So whatever the culture is, or whatever is causing that, we really need to drill down, we need to find out, and we need a very, very positive environment for people to work in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And as you were finishing, you crossed the 40-minute mark there. I gave you 16.2F, which allows you to finish your speech. But unfortunately, Councillor Garner, Councillor Saggers, I'm not going to have time to come to you. That concludes the main debate, and I thank you all for your involvement. Item 10. Item 10A is referral from Audit and Standards Committee. Oh, sorry. There are 2 summing ups. There are, you're right. No, you're right. Apologies, I carried straight through. At the end of the 40 minutes, we then move into the period of summation, and the Leader of the Opposition gets to lead that summation, and then the Leader of the Council gets to sum up. I was too eager to finish the meeting. Councillor Vince, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. And I do welcome the debate, and I think it was a good debate, it was a constructive debate, and I think we've got to air some of our grievances in a constructive way. I say that a little bit sensitively, because I think we did the same thing last year, and then the Leader of the Council summed up, and in my view, completely destroyed that. So I'll leave that to Councillor Swords. But what I would say from the debate and some of the documents I've looked at, and particularly the Cabinet papers last week, reviews, consultations, plans, policies, but no action. In the last 2 years, Chair, waiting times have got worse. As a councillor, I went through a stage where I'd be reporting casework, and I didn't get a timescale at all. Tree maintenance has got worse. Your own KPIs, these are the old KPIs, not the new ones we were promised, has got worse. I'm deeply concerned, as Councillor Shears and Councillor Charles are, about officer welfare. I think that has got worse. And I know for a fact that council finances are worse than they were 2 years ago. Now that's not on the councils opposite, it is on their government. There is an effect on services. If you cut staff, you're going to have a lesser service, as I mentioned previously. In the Cabinet meeting last week, the word carry forward was used about 7 or 8 times. So I welcome many of the things that Councillor Swords has said, but we need actions, not just words. Because we're 2 years into your administration and we're having carry forward. The only council houses that have been built are the ones that we started. Councillor Swords talks about the importance of interacting with tenants every year, but he only wants to let them vote every 4 years. Chair, we will support, jokes aside, politics aside, we will do what we can to support you to make this town as great a place as possible. When we again, Eugenie Harlow, I'll mention again, because she deserves all the praise that she should have, was a big promoter of Discover Harlow. This was poo-pooed by the now administration at the time. Actually, I think there's been a change, and I recognise that change, and I think that the work that was done in Discover Harlow is beginning to see favour again. I was delighted, in fact, to see in some of the cabinet reports, some of the logos and some of the work, some of the, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, the can't remember the words, but you know, some of that was used in those documents. That was very, very positive. So I think, you know, we can't underestimate the challenge facing this town. The people in this town are really struggling at the moment. And I recognise a lot of that isn't down to this council, it's down to the government, it's down to the struggles that the NHS are facing at the moment, but we've got to do what we can to support people in our town. I look forward to working in administration where I can, but as I say, I will scrutinise this administration and I will call out when they're saying things that just frankly aren't correct. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Swords, sum up your vote.
Thank you, Chair, and I welcome the largely constructive spirit of the debate, bar probably one councillor who spoke of, you know, not using divisive language and then proceeded to call members a disgrace. It's you know, this evening I set out a plan, 5 priorities for 25 very clear actions that we will deliver. I didn't hear anything of a plan or anything of any sort of tangible action that the opposition would take forward, so I take it they wholly endorse that plan. I'm also particularly impressed with their newfound love for financial prudence and focus on the council's finances. I presume this will be the apt moment for the relevant member opposite to now apologise for the £1.13 million he spent on nothing, on projects that never happened. He didn't even know he'd spent it, was the extent to which he had control over that money. And it was interesting, actually, that same member recently wrote in your Harlow, in response to an article about the Riston Woods issue, that all issues in the council rest with portfolio holders, and therefore I look forward to him now correcting the record and apologising for that. We also heard lots about the national government and so on and so forth. I would like to focus on, in summing up, Chair, on what we have achieved. Antisocial behaviour is down 35% in Harlow over the past year, and I commend Councillor Charles for the work he's done to lead the new antisocial behaviour strategy. Community safety strategy, I should say. We've gone from being one of the smallest landowners in the town centre to one of the largest. We have received more planning permissions for more council homes to be built in the last year than you did in the best part of 30 years. We've secured millions of pounds of new investment into this town, above and beyond what was already in place. As a result, I may add, of the government investing over 1.5 billion directly into this town in the years to come. We've had more potholes fixed this year than in any year in the previous 20, despite what some may say. What else did we do this year? We had such a bad record that we didn't just buck the national trend in terms of what happened election-wise, we won an extra seat. But still, we're told we're doing such a disastrous job by a party that's lost 3 elections in a row despite a national trend being otherwise. So I won't take any lectures off them, and I take particular grievance to one member seeking to attack one member of our administration who works day in, day out, tirelessly, going above and beyond what anyone on their administration ever did to make this town a better place. And I see every single day the passion of both council staff and councillors in this place. And as has been referenced by some members, I'm more than happy to work cross-party on issues. I speak to some councillors in the opposition more than I speak to my own councillors as a sign of that. And the issue that's been raised about officer-member relationships and the environment in which the council is operating in, and if I may, with your indulgence, provide a brief update on this, because it is a particularly serious issue. And I've had the privilege, as I said earlier, to work with the Chief Executive to carry out a number of staff briefings over recent weeks, and have met over 300 council employees in the past month in a variety of manners. And I'm pleased to report that that environment, as reflected by those officers, is significantly improving. I think the staff survey data, which will come out shortly, will recognise that, but the real litmus test of that will be when the LGA peer team comes back in the autumn and reports as to whether that has improved, but I'm very confident it has. So, to sum up, Chair, we have a very clear plan of action for the year ahead. I'm absolutely confident we will deliver it and make this